So I don't understand what's going on. Are you waiting for your chat live now?
Yeah, and it's recording, so.
That's wicked. Who are you chatting with?
Can you come here, man? Look. Can you be my place?
Who are you gonna chat with? Hello.
Okay, we're gonna start. I don't know who's here, but I can pick up all the sound in the background.
Hello. Am I there?
Yeah, can you turn your sound off?
Stop. Turn my sound off. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay, I'm going to start. I think it's just you and me. So glad I spent my day working on this. Okay, sharing my screen. Okay, so thinking about going into leadership. Here's why I did it. Hello, I'm Debbie Donsky. I'm principal in the Peel District School Board. Today, I'm going to talk to you about why you might want to consider leadership. If you have questions, please don't forget to tweet them to me at Debbie Donsky. And please add the hashtag BadPD, or you can add your questions to the live chat on the left-hand side of the screen. It's important to situate ourselves in our histories as individuals, as part of the different social identities, and as professionals. These different ways of seeing ourselves intersect and guide us toward who we believe ourselves to be. To me, leadership is always about the relationships. And as such, I'll take you through some of the key relationships and aspects of myself that led me towards the route I'm on. I decided to talk about the influences I've had as I continue to develop my leadership throughout my career. For it's through these influences and the lessons I've learned that I've been able to impact others, including students, staff, and community. Sandra Herbst reminds us that not only do we need to risk our own significance, but that as we do this as leaders, we're always modeling our learning stance for those who we serve and those within our sphere of influence. It's important to be able to articulate your beliefs, but it's far more important to live them. So this is me when I was 4 years old. I know the glasses are fabulous. There's this story that was shared with me from our neighbors who still live beside my parents, that when they moved in next door when I was only 4 years old, I reached up to shake their hands and introduced myself by saying, when I grow up, I want to be a teacher, get married, and have children. So there it is. Being a teacher was all I ever wanted to be. I loved most of my teachers, and even when I didn't, as I grew up, I seemed to deeply understand that as educators, we have the power to change the trajectory of a person's life. I wanted that. I wanted to make a difference. In 1994, the year I graduated from the Faculty of Education, Bell Hooks published this book, Teaching to Transgress, Education as the Practice of Freedom. I came across it while I was on a walk visiting my best friend in New York City. There was a fabulous bookstore in Chelsea where he lived. I was drawn to the simplicity and starkness of the cover, often how I used to select my books, which was unusual at the time. I'd never heard of Bell Hooks before, but it changed how I thought about my role as an educator. The first chapter begins with this quote: "To educate as the practice of freedom is a way of teaching that anyone can learn. That learning process comes easiest to those of us who teach, who also believe that there is an aspect of our vocation that is sacred, who believe that our work is not merely to share information, but to share in the intellectual and spiritual growth of our students, to teach in a manner that respects and cares for the souls of our students is essential if we are to provide the necessary conditions where learning can most deeply and intimately begin." It took some time to sign a permanent contract as there were few jobs, but 3 years into doing LTOs, it finally happened. I never thought of becoming a principal, ever. It was not on my radar. Being with my students, working with colleagues, learning from curriculum leaders, and doing my graduate work was enough for me. I was newly married and hoped to become a mom, as outlined in by my 4-year-old self. That was the last part of my journey. Many of us never consider that we are meant for leadership until we see someone who does it completely differently. And then when that person tells you to go into leadership, you can feel yourself blossoming. I could actually feel myself opening up to the possibility that I might be able to do it, because when Mira Hatiangari did it, I thought this could be something I could aspire to be and do. This amazing woman was in all the classrooms all the time. She knew the community and saw her role beyond the walls of the school. The innovation never stopped in her building. She was connected to students and their families, and she created opportunities for families, newcomers to Canada, to be gainfully employed through opportunities in the school, which would lead to other opportunities. The most important thing Mira ever said to me when she was trying to convince me to go this route was, who you are as a teacher is who you are as a leader. I'd worried about being away from students, but now I work with the students that have the people have the most difficulty supporting. Each time I've changed my role, I have changed my view. I understand education differently, the structures, the people, the reason things exist as they do, and what we can do to disrupt it. As a teacher, I knew what I had to do to make my classroom inclusive. As a vice principal, I began to see how what I believed was not going to make other people believe it too. As a principal, I've learned that who I am is how I lead. It may be, it may move people, it may not. Yesterday, my friend Pam Agua said that she had a choice to either lead with her identity or just do the work, and she chose the former. It has allowed her to connect in real ways with every racialized student in her building. Who we are is how we lead. This is the same message Mira gave me 20 years earlier, but when I heard it at different times, it hits me different ways. My career started in a time when there were no permanent jobs. I've often joked that I'm always going to be the wandering Jew, as I've worked in 10 schools, 6 boards, and the Ministry of Education 3 times. I move. The longest I've ever been in a role is 4 years in my 25 years as an educator, and that was at my last school. I like change because it makes me learn more about myself, the space I'm in, and education in general. As educators, we have to commit to our own learning and growth. For different people, it looks different, of course, but for me, it's always been about challenging myself. The first superintendent I had as an administrator was Ruth Lambert. She was pivotal in my growth as a leader. She encouraged me 3 times to apply to become a principal. It was after I'd completed my doctorate and for the first time in many years felt content. I didn't want to move. I loved my principal, Matt Champion. I loved my school, which was Castlemore Public School in York Region. My family felt stable. I felt I had found balance. It was good. She had other plans. I learned deeply from her about instructional leadership. Together, we led admin meetings and shifted practices with teacher performance appraisals with an asset lens, which my superintendent, of course, called a treasure hunt rather than a witch hunt, but also shifted structure that included real feedback. In our networks, which were the hub of our professional learning, she challenged us to ask ourselves if our staff are resistant or are they afraid, moving from a place of judgment to empathy to create conditions for success for our staff. As a superintendent, she knew the staff, the students, and community, and the difference that it makes in responding to complex situations in partnership with school trustees, and it was profound. She's taught me to build trust with my staff by valuing their own professional journeys and being transparent about my own as we engaged in inquiry through our theories of action. One of the things she said to me was that many people seek promotion because they believe they need more, but that I would know when it was time for more when I felt comfortable. She told me because I always found ways to engage deeper, learn more, do better, I would never really feel ready. But I would always find something else to learn. She told me that my indication was comfort. When I felt comfortable, I was no longer challenged. It was time to move on. Now, 14 years later, I'm waiting for a spot on the senior leadership team in my new board where I'm shortlisted to be a superintendent of education. There will be challenges, new learning, new changes in this new role when it eventually happens. In the meantime, each day I know that I make a difference for students in my care. So why are you thinking about going into leadership? You need to know your why. I knew my why, and my why actually evolves over time. I wanted to teach children to follow their dreams, as I declared when I was only 4 years old. I wanted to lead from a place of love that would show compassion, kindness, and caring for every person over whom I had influence. I wanted to teach to transgress in my classroom, my school, and hopefully in a system where I know that each move I make is tied to the sacredness of teaching. When we consider the generational trauma that schooling has caused for so many through cultural genocide, erasure of history, and experience, I wanted to do the opposite. I wanted to create spaces where voice, power, diversity of experience, and learning are transformed not only by the richness of those in our buildings, but through the access to all manner of learning through the democratizing nature of digital learning. I wanted to support students and families with the courage that Mira taught me, not just pacify them so we can get on with the work of schooling, but to empower them to have agency, voice, and strength, even if it made my job more challenging. I wanted to model the joy that I feel when a child feels seen, heard, and valued. I wanted to embrace innovation and succeed despite all odds. I wanted to be connected to students, staff, and community as Ruth was. I wanted to model instructional leadership and know that my staff are my class and that it is my responsibility as their instructional leader to ensure that each staff member is supported in the way that suits their needs, their path, their growth. And in doing so, I have hope that they will do the same for their students in their care. I wanted to have my eyes open for those seeking more and speak to their hearts as Ruth spoke to mine, so that they themselves can be on a trajectory of becoming, as Queen Michelle Obama would say. As educators, we nurture our students each and every day to become. We struggle with those who challenge us and celebrate those who grow, even a little bit, even a tiny little bit. As a school leader, we do the same, but our influence grows. We help the staff in our schools to see themselves and their gifts, and in turn, see their students as their gifts. To be a leader is to send a ripple out in a pond, and the impact is infinite. There's a Talmudic saying that says, "He who saves one life saves the world entire." I feel as educators, we do this every day. As educational leaders, that ripple is even greater. And to close, I want to just quote Michelle Obama again, that becoming is never giving up on the idea that there's more growing to be done. So now it's us. So if you have questions or comments, please feel free to add them to the chat in the YouTube on the right-hand side, or you can add comments on Twitter. Make sure you tag me and hashtag MadPD. So if anybody is online and wants to join, otherwise, I guess we should shut this down. Okay, well, thanks for coming and joining. I hope you enjoyed the talk, and I believe it will be recorded and available in future. Oh, I have a question from Judy. What do you know about leadership that you wished you knew when you began your journey? Huh. Well, first, that I didn't have to buy all those suits. That was a big one. I've told this story before. I'd been a vice principal for 2 weeks, and a teacher at my first school, her name was Olga. She whispered to me, we were in a junior or intermediate divisional meeting, and she whispers to me, "You don't normally wear suits, do you?" I'm like, "How can you tell?" And she said I looked really uncomfortable, and I had spent like money I didn't have buying suits at Holt Renfrew Last Call, so they were on sale, but still. And it was funny because when I started at my next school, or I guess when I started at my last school, actually, I wore capri pants and a t-shirt that said "Grow Hope" and a pair of Nike high tops that I bought myself when I turned 40. And I think that what that really talks to me about is that you have to be yourself. So it's what Mira said: who you are as a teacher is who you are as a leader. I understand that some people feel they need to dress a certain way, but I dress so that I can be with the kids. I can play at recess. I play tag at least twice a week, and that you have to invent yourself through your leadership. Yes, I was suited to leadership. That's right. I think something else that I've learned over time, and I'm sure you would know this too, Judy, is that it's always darkest before the dawn. It's that, when you feel like you just can't get through what's happening, something amazing happens. Like, there's a little girl at my school now who likes to come to my office for the last 20 minutes of the day and play cards and listen to either Celebration or We Are Family, or both. And a couple other kids have started to join, and we play War or we play Go Fish, and we dance around my office. And for me, it doesn't matter what happens during my day. If that's how I end my day, it's awesome. So I think, always look for those moments of happiness, and I teach the kids that too. That even when you think you're having a bad day, it's just a bad moment. Yes. Okay. So, thanks for joining. It's been a blast, and I hope you aren't sitting inside on this beautiful day. And if you want to reach me, if you watch this after the fact, you can always reach me on Twitter at Debbie Donsky. I also have a website, debbiedonsky.com. And thanks for joining. Hey, Mark Strong. You have a question for me before I shut it down? Where do I get my inspiration from? Absolutely, I get my inspiration from my kids, like my own children, and from the students in my buildings, and I read a lot, but also from my friends and well, I was going to say my coach, but my coach is my friend too. I think that it really is all around us. So whatever's happening, colleagues, podcasts, why don't you just answer the question for me? Just doing the best every single day that I can in service of the students, the community, and the staff. So that's my inspiration. It's right there in front of me. Okay, now I'm totally shutting it down. Thanks for joining, and I hope you enjoyed, and take care.